welcome back to me in my living room. I started making zines around this time last year. Originally the first one that I made was for a media class that I was taking, and it just ended up being a process that I really enjoyed. That very first one that I made was called On the Other Side of the River, and in that project I utilized a lot of my older photography from several years ago, back when I was still living in my hometown, a mixture of digital photography but also my instant film collection from that time. Just really being creative in a very informal setting, and then having something to like hold and share with people after the fact was also a really cool feeling. I remember after I made them, I was still working at a coffee shop at the time, and I took some with me to work just to like give out to some of my like coworkers and favorite customers. I feel like that's one thing that's really special about zines in general, is that there is a lot of creativity that goes into them, but they're also very accessible to produce and to share with others. I know that I've mentioned this before on this channel, but there's a local bookstore called Quimby's here in New York that is very centered around zines and local publications, small publications, and artists. They are honestly a large part of the reason that I've kept up with making zines in this past year. I will show you a couple of the zines that I still have on hand. These are some things that I've made semi-recently, my bird obituary being one of my favorites. I've made quite a few different 6-page zines, either for Quimby's or for gifts for friends, or for extra goodies that I was packaging with book orders a few months ago. But for the most part, they've been strictly digitally made and then printed out in batches of copies. But I wanted to try something different for this most recent collection of zines that I've made by trying to incorporate some more physical collaging elements. This video is going to be a bit of a tutorial, but also just make a zine with me, hangout, vlog kind of thing. I have a lot of collaging elements on hand that I keep in a big overflowing drawer in my house, so a lot of magazine cuttings that I've saved because I think they're interesting. But in addition to those, for this project I also really wanted to get some of my own photos printed. So I went to a CVS to get some stuff printed for the zine. It was also Valentine's Day weekend, so I also printed out this art project that I've been working on, which was like an embroidered collage of some pictures from our elopement last year, because I wanted to get it printed out to use for a card that I was making. So I got all those things together, got myself a nice coffee on the way home, had a nice little morning. And then when I got home, just got to try to spend some time figuring out how I wanted to use all of these different elements to pull together for these projects. So I ended up making 3 different zines. I'll explain just kind of the concepts that I had for these. One of the ones that I wanted to do was a little sewing guide, kind of free pattern-ish, for a recent project that I did where I made a little kitchen apron. I'll show it to you. This was the sweet little ruffle apron that I had made with Trevor's help. I did the pattern cutting and then he sewed all the pieces together. But we very much just freehanded the design, and it ended up like perfectly, absolutely no waste, using a yard of fabric. So I thought that was a cool little concept to do, like here's a little guide for a no waste, easy sewing project. The other 2 zines that I made ended up being kind of love letters to Tumblr. If I haven't talked about it too much on here before, I'm an avid Tumblr user, longtime Tumblr girl. For the 6-page zine that I made about Tumblr, I went back to my blog post from 2016. I felt kind of inspired to do this by a lot of the posts that I saw earlier this year of people posting yourself in 2016 and then in 2026 at the 10-year landmark and kind of that whole cultural moment. And to me, at least, Tumblr feels like a big part of that moment. So I went back to my blog from that time and kind of tried to grab the post that felt the most quintessential, like the year of 2016 that I could find. So I had some about Pokemon Go and and about Hamilton, some Dan Howell gifts, a little front bottoms quote. So I thought it would be fun to just kind of size those down and try to make the 6-page zine just look like a physical printed version of my blog. And then the other Tumblr zine kind of ended up being like a full-on manifesto of just why I think Tumblr is still a great social media and that more people should be on it. So I did print some cutesy like excerpts from my blog from a long time ago, and then also from what posting on there and this year what the community in 2026 looks like. So those were kind of the concepts that we were starting with. The Tumblr zines were definitely a little experimental for me, especially compared to what I'm used to making for zines. The sewing project one is definitely much closer to what that process typically looks like for me, which I will go into a little bit for this. I actually put the design for the pages together on Canva, which I talked a little bit about in my last digital collaging video. The measurements for the pages that I use is 2.75 inches wide by 4.25 inches tall. And then there's gonna be 8 of those, a front cover, a back cover, and then the 6 interior ones. So I just go through page by page, make sure each one looks like how I need it to look like. And then I download all of those individually so that I can place them into a template that I'm going to use to actually print them off. Even though I've made several zines, I always end up having to reference the template in order to lay everything out. But it's just taking all those individual designs, laying them over, and then putting those into a PDF to use for the print. Once I had all of the design elements and the layout figured out, it was time to get to the printing part of the process, which for me means going to the public library to use their wonderful free printing resources.
When the sun goes down and the chores are through, oh, there ain't nothing better than I like to do than to sit around the house when the folks ain't home, listen to the music on the grass plus phone. I like mountain music, the old mountain music, played by a real Billy Bass. Give me the rhythm.
The assembly process for these pieces in particular ended up being a lot to do. Because the apron sewing zine was definitely the most simple, I'll start there to just kind of show the whole process of what it typically looks like to print and assemble. I always include a border around what I'm printing. The border just gives me a good way to see exactly the lines that I need to be cutting down so that I can try to keep everything as symmetrical as possible. I luckily have all of these wonderful tools to cut straight lines because Trevor uses all of them for his quilting, where it is also very important to maintain symmetry and straight lines. But after I'm done trimming off the edges from the piece and it's down to the size that it needs to be, I fold the page and have both ways just to give me some guidelines of where the center is. And then I'm cutting from the center to the halfway point, long ways down the page, so that I'll be able to fold it into its final form. I kind of take it by both edges and lay one page over the other so that I can end up having it lay as flat as possible. And it just kind of goes all together like so.
Once I was happy with heart free from care, had a daddy and mama so sweet, doll and a doggy and playthings.
I got double-sided tape just for this project because I knew I was going to have so many little elements to attach to the pages and I wanted to avoid mess as much as possible. For the sewing guide, I felt like the picture on the front was a nice minimal little detail to add that I think made it look more eye-catching without being too terribly time-consuming for the project. Adding all of the Tumblr posts was definitely a much more involved undertaking.
My head. The day seems so sad and the night is so long since Daddy and Mama are dead. I long for those hands so gentle and warm that tuck me away in my bed. miss that sweet voice and the lullaby song at night when my prayers are said. No one was so kind, so gentle and true. No treasure more precious could be. In a beautiful garden in heaven above, I know she is waiting for me. No home, no home, no home, no home, no place to pillow my head. The day seems so sad and the night is so long, since Daddy and Mama are dead.
And I was super happy with how these ones turned out. I ended up just making 3 of each because it was much more time consuming just because of all of the physical collaging that I had to do for them. The last scene that I made was definitely different from anything else that I've done before. Instead of doing the normal 6-page zine structure, I decided to do something a little bigger for my little manifesto that I ended up calling Tumblr Girls Never Die. This project, there was nothing printed at all. I used plain pages and then just did a lot of collaging and handwriting to put everything together. I even did magazine lettering, which was very time consuming as well. I had an evening where I just sat down on my couch and cut out any letter that I saw that was like in the words Tumblr Girls, and then I had kind of just a whole pile to select from while I was putting them together.
How much I love you, and I've gotta close up all the hubba like a clam. If you ever found out all the dreams that I am dreaming of you would think that I'm a wolf, and it's not I'm such a wolf, it's just you're such a lamb.
I was really proud of how this one turned out, and I also have to give a shout out to Trevor because he helped me a lot with the assembly for these because it was much more time consuming than I had thought it was going to be. But that one turned out really cute, and it was fun trying to make a different kind of scene than what I'm used to. So overall, I was very proud of this little drop. I think they were all really cute and eye-catching, definitely unique in comparison to things that I've made in the past. I feel like now that I've kind of branched into this territory of like doing physical collage on zines, that I have like a lot of ideas for stuff that I want to try to make in the future. So that's the whole collection that I made, totally ready to share. So the next thing was just to do a little zine drop off in Williamsburg.
Take me back to the place where I first saw the light, to my sweet sunny spot. Take me home, where the mockingbird sang me to sleep every night. Oh, why was I tempted to roam? Take me home, to my sweet sunny spot. Take me home.
I always love going into Quimby's. The first time that I came across them was actually just because I was working in the neighborhood and I went on my lunch break one day. Their collection is so cool, and I really do think that zines are such an important part of the creative community. Just having an accessible way for people to share their work, people who wouldn't usually have access to mainstream publications. I think those are voices that it's really important to be listening to. So finding art, finding literature at places that are really focusing on centering those underrepresented voices is really cool, and I would definitely recommend checking them out. They have a lovely shop cat named Gracie. I have a sticker of her on my laptop. She was sleeping when we went that day, so we didn't really get to say hi, but that's okay. She works really hard and she deserves a nap. We checked in on my poetry and memoir collection, which is being stocked at Quimby's as well. This was my second restock there already, and it looks like they only had 2 copies left when we went, so I'll be due for another one soon. soon. So if you do get to check out Quimby's, you can check out my writing there as well. But we picked out a few things. I did my drop of zines, and so like I said, I only did 3 of each, but if you would like to have one, I just filmed this video a couple days before it goes live, so you can probably still have a chance to go pick one up if you want. But that was our little visit to Quimby's. We also went to Poetica Coffee while we were over there and got myself a latte again. And then also, because we were only a few blocks away, we went to Artist and Craftsman Supply Williamsburg, which I've talked about on this channel before many years ago at this point, but they're one of my other favorite artist spots in the city, and I just got myself a new sketch pad because I was in need of a new one. I will show you guys a couple of things that I got from Quimby's because, like I said, I think people who make and share their work in zines are so cool and such an important part of the artist writer community. These are 3 that I picked up. This one is a little poetry zine, which I grabbed just because that's kind of similar to stuff that I've made in the past. I love reading people's poetry and seeing the little way that they represent it. Just has a few photos from around the city, and I'll throw everybody's little references to where they post their work up as well. This is another one of the poetry ones that I grabbed, which is just so sweet. Again, like, felt very reminiscent of the kind of stuff that I usually feel drawn to make. So I grabbed that one too. And then the last one that I got had a very unassuming cover, but the inside has some really cool little collage details on it, and it's also just a fun concept. It's called Eavesdropping in the East Village. Just like a little collection of overheard things from people talking as they walk by, which is something I'm always interested in as well, so I thought this was really cool. But yeah, that's what I got to take home. I had such a lovely weekend overall. I love my creative community here in New York. I love Valentine's Day. Really quick before you go, I do want to show you also from Valentine's Day, this was the card that I got to make with my art project that I've been working on. And then Trevor apparently had a similar idea. This is the little thing that he made. But yeah, honestly, it was great to have this video as an excuse to work on a new project and try something a little different creatively. Definitely check out the other artists, check out Quimby's. I hope this gave you a bit of inspiration for what you want to work on for your next project. I would always love to see whatever you're working on. If you want to connect with me on any of my social things, they are always linked down below. Thank you as always for caring about the things that I make, and I will see you
What is
soon.
left that I know? Can it
Bye.
be that the old home is gone? And the friends of my childhood indeed must be few. I'm left to lament all alone. Take me home, take me home.